following show is a paid program.
Hey family, how you doing today? We have the best of the best with us, national recording artist, producer, teacher, pianist, Gino Rosaria. Hey my friend, how you doing?
Hey Cam, how are you doing? So good to be here on the show.
Absolutely. Man, I've been waiting on you. 4 different languages you speak fluently.
I do.
I'm learning a little thing. So you moved to the United States in 2003 to study music. Let's talk about that. Let's
Okay.
start from there. And also 4 different languages. Which 4 do you speak fluently?
So I speak English, Spanish, Dutch, and our native language back home is called Papiamentu.
Hmm. We can stay in a room and people don't know what we're listening to. I'll say, Gino, what is they saying?
Yep, exactly. I've done it many times.
Absolutely. Coming to the US, how does that feel 2003 and you're still here?
You know, honestly, I never thought I would be here. Coming to
Yeah.
US was always a dream of mine growing up. I never thought it was something that I could ever afford. I never knew it was going to happen because we didn't grow up with much back home on the island. So, but I was able to do really well in school back home, and I ended up getting a scholarship, and I was able to come to the U.S. And after I graduated, I got a lot of work here in the U.S., and I ended up staying. And things just kind of worked themselves out. I worked really hard and, one thing came after another, right place, right time, right opportunities. And here we are.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that. As an international artist, which is a little different than, your local artist, being here and living and being born in the United States, just the opportunity. I don't know that many know that there is an opportunity to come here for the scholarship and then come over here and actually work and do the work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It, it's so much information out there. So you have to just spend a lot of time researching until you find something that works for you. A lot of people don't even know that there's opportunities out there that could help
Right.
them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take the time to search, then you can find something that works for you
Mm-hmm.
and, help you achieve your dreams.
Absolutely. What I loved about just reading your story in 2009, you got your master's also. Why so? Why not just the 1 degree?
Well, so after I graduated my bachelor's, I decided that, when I was studying my bachelor, I was actually a double major. I was studying both computer science and music.
Mm-hmm.
So my time was divided between music and computer science. So I decided I wanted to spend some time specializing and just focusing on just music. And so I decided I just for fun, I one day I went to do the audition for the master's program. And I didn't take it seriously because I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, but I passed and they wanted me to stay. So they ended up giving me a full ride scholarship to do my master's program. And that was a big sign to me and kind of a wake up call at the same time that, music was a serious thing for me. And so I spent the next 2 years studying with the world renowned Jaffe, Mrs. Jaffe, Dr. Jaffe, and she really, 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 really stretched my talent. And it was a good 2 years to just focus on music and learn the business of music as well, and just really prepare me for what was to come next.
Absolutely. That's what it today our topic was jazz music the business series. The reason I did that is because of what you just said. Just understanding music, 10%, creativity, things you do, but there's 90% of the business that many miss out on. They don't understand it. They don't understand the contracts that go with it. They don't understand promotions. And we were talking earlier, just the business side of it, many people monetarily lose out.
Right. Yes, and that's something that I had to learn too. My first couple of years as a musician, as an artist, a lot of that stuff I didn't know. I was very blessed to have a mentor that really showed me the business side of things. He toured with a lot of Motown artists. So anytime he was in town, him and I got together and we talked shop. And he really showed me the business side of things. And I realized that you're right. But in order to make it as an artist, almost 90% of it is business. And
Right.
that's the part that a lot of us don't want to do. And it's not the fun side of things.
Right.
But you don't just make it big just like that. You don't just one day boom somebody discovers you and then you're big. You gotta do a lot of work to get there. So
Absolutely. It always goes back to a lot of people who would say, sign your own checks, meaning know where your money goes, know where you're getting it,
right,
know how it moves, know what other parts of the business are, not just the creative, you being the pianist, but know the back part. That's what I loved about you producing, the producer side. Why so producing?
well, part of being successful in life, I noticed for a lot of artists who make it big, yes, there's the performance side of it, but the passive income is really what you're after. The money that comes in while you're sleeping, while you're on vacation. And that money doesn't come from performance because once you finish performing and you get paid, that's it. There's no more money coming in after that. But when you're producing, then you have clients who you're producing for, and their music is now going on streaming services and the radios and TV. Well, now you're getting paid for your royalties for producing or playing on those music that are making money, and you get to get a part of that check as well. So producing is to me is a big part of um, it's a really good income to have as a musician and as an artist because you can only perform so much,
Right.
and but the royalties are going to keep coming in forever.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that because so many, now that COVID hit, right? And we were talking about that. The end of February, beginning of March, you were seeing that a lot of your touring, a lot of things that you had even scheduled were closing, but then you can lean on the royalties, and many people can't because they did not get that
Exactly.
credit. Yeah.
That's right. Yes.
So we have to
Hmm.
talk. Let's talk to people about how to make sure that uh, they get their credit. Just making sure of that.
Well, first thing as an artist, you got to make sure you are a member of either BMI or ASCAP or any of those organizations that keep track of royalties for the music that you write. It's also a good idea to have your own publishing company, and you can get that for a very minimal fee for the same companies with BMI and ASCAP. You can have your publishing under them. So basically, now if you release music as a writer, you're getting two checks. You're getting one as a writer and one as a publisher. Um, then you can also get royalties for playing as a feature on other people's music, and so all that goes back to making sure you have your membership with BMI, and then or BMI or ASCAP or any of those entities. The next step is to make sure that you are subscribed with companies such as Sound Exchange, and they track all of your radio play and streaming and all of that. They make sure that you get paid for that because it's two separate things. So you want to make sure that you have all these things set up so you can get all the money that you're supposed to be getting. Otherwise, you're only going to get part of it. Um, so a lot of artists don't know that, but a lot of them have money sitting out there that they could be getting that they
Right.
just they just didn't do the paperwork to get it, and it
Right.
doesn't take a whole lot of effort. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. I thank you for that. Thank you for just that part because so many are sitting out there, especially new artists and independent artists that are out there and just haven't had that guidance. They don't have a mentor to help them, but they have put a lot of music out there, a lot of writers out there that are not getting credit and they're not on the actual project. and they were really the writers, or they put the beats on there, they did something on there, produced it or something, and they're still not getting their credit. They're not getting money for it.
Exactly. Right.
They lose out on
Yep.
it quite a
And
bit.
some of them, yeah. And some of them just honestly, like you said, they don't know. They start writing music for people and give them the music.
Right.
But once you give them the music, then it's kind of too late. You can't really go back and make an agreement. You got to have these agreements ahead of time so that both parties know what you're doing for each other. But
Right.
once you give the client music, it's hard to go back and say, well, now I want this out of it. That's kind of unprofessional.
And
Yeah.
then the other thing is representation. You have to pay for it.
Hmm.
You have to pay for representation, and you also have to pay and invest in yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of us don't want to spend money on those things, but
Right.
it's really just it's an investment because that money will come back to you. There's
Yeah.
people don't understand there's so much money in royalties out there, especially once your music makes it onto XM radio or iHeart radio or TV. So much money is going to come back to you, and it's going to cover all those expenses that you have to pay up front with no problem.
Absolutely, and people don't even think about it. I was just looking at, listening to someone the other day saying, "Cam, a lot of our stuff is on the radio, but it's also put into movies. It's put into other things that we may not know about, but like you said, BMI, we know that is getting it,
Mhm.
and they track
Exactly.
it."
Mhm. They track it, but they're not in a hurry to give you your money. So if you don't tell them that you want it, they're gonna hold on to it.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And this is what you educate in your master classes. You have a lot of great master classes, and you educate your people about this.
Yes, to me, it's important. A lot of students, especially who go to school for performance degrees, a lot of performance degrees don't teach business of music.
Right.
They just teach you performance. You spend 10 hours a day in a practice room getting really good at your skill, but then once you get your degree and you get out of college, well, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
And that's the part I like to go and share as much as I know with students, because it's important. It's important.
It's very important, and I'm so glad you do that many times. Jazz and classical. Why classical? Because that's what you have a degree in that, classical music performance.
Yes, my degree is actually in classical music, and the reason for that is that the very first time I heard jazz, I was 16, and I fell in love with it. But the very first artist that I ever listened to, the jazz artist, was Oscar Peterson. He was a great jazz pianist, but he was a virtuoso. He was amazing, but he was also classically trained. So I wanted to go into the same direction that he went to. So I studied classical. And then after I studied classical, I took jazz private lessons from a jazz professor. And so I was able to mix the technique that I learned from the classical training with my jazz studies. And so now when I perform, I'm able to not only fly up and down the piano, but at the same time also be a jazz artist.
That is so good. That is so good. As we were talking about the 10% of the music and 90% of the business, we were also looking at the fact that with that, a lot of people not being getting paid, and a lot of them not getting their royalties and things like that. But now COVID has hit. It shut down everything, and nobody
Yes.
was getting any money except the people in royalties. Let's talk about that.
Yes, I'm glad you bring that up because believe it or not, a lot of big name artists suffered during COVID. You would think that they will be just fine, but those artists were under labels. The labels were getting all the royalties. And so the artists themselves who were making their money off of performing, they weren't getting any money. So I know several myself. I won't mention names, but these guys were selling their masters um, to the labels just so they can get some money to survive during COVID, and that's very sad.
I'm glad
So
you mentioned that. I'm glad you
yeah,
mentioned that because it's such pivotal. It was eye opening, yes, and it just
hmm,
where we all thought they were fine.
right, yeah, yeah. I mean, these guys were making bank before COVID, so you would
Yes,
think they would have a emergency fund set have to survive for several years,
Right.
but they were struggling. And that's because they were living off of performing. And during COVID, the labels were just getting all the royalties. So that's the nice thing about being independent is all the royalties come to me. I don't have to give it to a label. That's
Right.
how most labels make their money is they keep the royalties.
Wow.
And the royalties, they come in for, as long as your music is playing somewhere, the label is getting paid. But if you stop performing one day, you're not going to get paid, but the label's still going to get paid. So that's why you got to be very careful when you form these deals with these labels because they are very smart people. They give you these ideas these deals that seem very lucrative at the moment, but you really got to think long term before you sign any of those deals.
You really do. You really do. And then
Yeah,
the older you get, your music is still out there. You're not performing anymore. A lot of the older artists that maybe not be performing like that right now, right? I see
exactly.
many of them are having to come back out on the road. You see them.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what's happening right now. People that haven't been touring are now setting up tours again. And you're like, well, wow, I thought you'd be enjoying life right now, but now you got to go back to work.
Right. Absolutely. And that's
So,
what I think the revelation of COVID just really opened that up.
yes. Yeah. So I think COVID is really going to help really open up a lot of musicians and a lot of artists' eyes. So I think going forward, at least I would hope musicians and artists would be a lot smarter on how they form their deals and how they handle their money and where they put their investments. So
I'm glad you said that too, because as investments, because it just showed how they didn't have money set aside, right?
that's right.
And then for these times, because nobody thought of these times at this, we never thought that the
Exactly.
world would shut down, not just, the United States, but the complete world at the time it did.
Right.
And you even had some things. You had a festival that you were going to be at, and would have been your first time even joining that festival, and it shut down. They had to reschedule.
Yeah. Yep. I had several things. Within the matter of 2 weeks, everything got either canceled or rescheduled.
Wow.
And right now, my booking agent is, reaching back out to a lot of these gigs that I had booked. But when we go on their website, they shut down permanently, or they don't know when they're gonna open again. So it's sad.
Absolutely. Let's do this. We'll take a break on the Cam Hill Show and be right back.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages. The Cam Hill Show. If you'd like to advertise your business or become a sponsor, contact the Cam Hill Show at gmail.com.
Move up at Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 Cadillac XT4 Luxury Collection for only $319 a month. The new 2021 Cadillac XT5 Luxury Collection for only $399 a month. Both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase either and enjoy 1.9% APR for 60 months plus bonus cash. Gulf Freeway just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
Shop smarter when you shop Ron Carter. Ron Carter Cadillac.com.
My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy, because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Hey, we're back with Gino Rosaria. pianist, the best in the one of the best in the world, I tell you. Hey, buddy, how you doing? We've got some great songs that you've done. Let's go over some. And how did they come about? Sunday at 3 p.m.
So Sunday 3 p.m. has a very, very deep story behind it. I was in LA and I was hanging with my buddy Adam Hawley,
Uh,
and we were in his studio and we're writing this song, we're writing it together, and we finish it, and he said, "Okay, now we got to come up with a title for this song." And we looked at the clock, it was 3 p.m. on a Sunday, and I said, "Oh, Sunday 3
I love it.
p.m." It was one of the last songs that I was doing for the album, so I was starting to run out of ideas for names.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's how that came about.
I love that one. The night is still young.
The Night is Still Young. So that was one of the first songs that I started writing for the album.
Hmm.
And this was my first smooth jazz CD.
Yes.
Before this, I had experimented with some other forms of jazz, but this was my first smooth jazz, very commercial album. So when I wrote that song, and the song kind of came to me really quickly. I kind of finished writing it in a short amount of time in one evening. And in my mind, when I started working on that song, since it was my first project, my first smooth jazz project, I was probably going to be up for a while.
Hmm.
Well, I finished that song really quickly, and then I looked at the clock and I said, "Whoa, I have time to do other things." So I named that song "The Night Is Still Young" because I finished it a lot quicker than I thought I would.
I love that one. You have one that's on the, I guess, on billboards and so, Night Groove.
Yes, Night Groove was my very first single, and so I released that song on a Monday, and then my radio promoter calls me back on Tuesday afternoon. And keep in mind, I had never released anything to the radio before this.
Right.
He calls me back on Tuesday afternoon and said, "Gino, I need you to sit down." I said, "Okay." So I thought something had gone terribly wrong. So he said that this song has been picked up by Watercolors on Sirius XM. So I said, "Okay." I didn't know what the big deal was about it.
You didn't know what that
So
meant.
I was like, "Okay," it just got picked up. So, so I called my buddy Adam Hawley and I told him, said, "Hey, by the way, I was told my song got picked up on Sirius XM." And he said, "Whoa, that's amazing." And he explained to me why that was a big deal. Sirius XM is one of the highest paying radio stations out there.
Hmm.
So that's when I really got excited. And he told me that, you don't get on there easily, especially as a new artist.
Right.
So the fact that I made it onto XM radio within a day, that was a huge accomplishment for me. And it was super exciting. But the title of the song itself, that's another song that I co-wrote with Adam. And we came up with the groove first, just the drums and the bass line.
Hmm.
And I was playing the bass line on the keyboard, and we were both bobbing our heads to
Right.
it, and it was like, oh man, this is a groove.
Right.
This is a groove. This is the kind of groove that you play in your car at night as you're on the interstate driving home after a gig.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I called it Night Groove.
Well, I'm telling you, these are the songs that I picked up that because I listened to a lot and research a lot beforehand. And these are the songs I'm telling you, I was just Night Groove. I understand that why in the day. I mean, I couldn't get it out of my head through the night. It was even, like in your sleep and you leave a club and then you sleep and you still hear that same music that you heard before. It's
Yep.
just some songs that just stay with you. That one stays
Yep.
with you. It's one of those songs that you could just drive and just have a great time, Night Groove. The other one that I
Exactly.
love is Still Waters Run Deep. I love them all, but
So
these
that's
are
actually
some ones.
that's actually the name of the album.
Right.
I don't have a song name,
Yeah.
but
That whole album I
so
love. I just wanted to tell you about that album. That album I love. Hmm.
right. So the way I came up with the name for that album, up until that point, I had been performing with a lot of other smooth jazz artists, but I was always the sideman. I was always either hired as a musical director or as just the sideman to put keyboard behind them. Uh, so And all these years as I've been playing with them, and I would learn their music and I would play it, and I would think to myself, man, I can make this too. I can do this kind of music. I know I can. So finally, I saved up and I said, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right. Because a lot of people try to save money when putting out a CD, and that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make.
Right.
So I figured out how much it's gonna cost, and I said, okay, to do it right, and said I'm gonna save up and then do it right. So when I finally did it, and the music came out, I mean, the music was done, and I call it Still Waters Run Deep because I felt like this whole time I've been performing with other artists, I had my own ideas in my mind. I had all this inside of me that I didn't really know I had. I had a feeling I could do it, but I never actually explored it myself.
Right.
So I call it Still Waters Run Deep because most people who know me as a very quiet guy when I'm off stage. So, but even though I'm a quiet person, kind of laid back, reserved, I still had all of this music inside me that I was now able to bring out through that album.
That's good. That's good. But I'm glad. Let's go back in what you said. People make the mistake first, and we're talking about the monetary part. They save up, but they don't know the cost, right? They're not looking at the cost, the
Right.
total cost of how to make a great CD, how to make it great.
Right.
They'll put a little money together
Yeah.
and then try to stretch it.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I did with my very first album back in 2012 that I never talk about anymore. And there's a reason why I don't talk about it because I did that exact same thing.
Yeah.
I tried to do a lot of things, by cutting costs,
Right.
and at the end I was not happy with the project. People would still compliment me on it, but I personally I was not happy with it. I wasn't proud of it. So with Still Waters Run Deep, I figured I knew what I wanted.
Right.
I knew how I wanted to sound. And so, I kind of got prices ahead of time, asked these people that I wanted to play on it, said, how much would you charge me? How much is mixing going to cost? How much is mastering? I talked to the promoter. I said, how much is going to cost to promote, singles, all that. It's like, if I'm going to do this, I want to go all the way. I want to do it right.
Right.
And I got all the numbers, and then I gave myself a deadline. And then I just hustled. It's like, I'm gonna gig, save my money. Don't buy any more keyboards. Just save my money. And so I was able to do that project, and I'm very proud of it and very happy with how it came out. And but yeah, I'll tell anybody this: don't try to, don't try to cut costs on an album by either hiring somebody or doing things in a way that is not the best way of doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Quality is really good.
Exactly.
The quality is really, really good. And a lot of people cut in the quality. They use friends,
Right.
your buddies, oh man, I can do it. I just learned it on YouTube.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want that. You get the guys who've been doing it for 20 years and they know
Yes.
exactly what to do. Those guys.
Absolutely. Let's do that. I love what you said about that. What have you learned along the way?
Along the way, wow, there's
Take
so
your time.
much I've learned. Yeah. Um, well, one of the biggest things that I've learned is professionalism in music. And that's one area where a lot of musicians and artists lack of because they have so much talent that they think they can get away with not being professional. And when you're dealing with music, you got to run it as a business, right? You got to run it as if you're the CEO and whoever you're dealing with are the employees. So if you were to work for a CEO, how would you want him to treat you? And you got to take that same mentality on a gig. Doesn't matter if it's a 50-person, 50 people gig or if it's a huge festival, but the way you deal with your fellow musicians that you're working with or the artist or the promoter, that's very important. So you need to know how to deal respectably with people, how to be able to solve problems in a way where you don't burn bridges. A lot of musicians are not good at that. If they don't like something, they will burn that bridge and move on. But you just never know when you might need that bridge again someday down the road. So that's just not the way, in my opinion, to do business. If you don't like something, then you just walk away from it. You don't have to destroy, whatever relationship you have with that person.
Right.
And then learning your music, coming prepared, showing up on time, wearing the proper clothing for the show. All of that is important.
All of that's
Very,
important.
very important.
All of that's
Yeah.
important. Versely, especially time. Especially time.
Exactly.
Oh my God, we have problems with time. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like we're waiting on them, right? To get there.
Exactly.
You
Right.
know,
hmm
we're waiting on them to get there. Especially us as fans, we're waiting on them to get there, and they're running and late, and things like that happens. The show is pushed back. You know, just things that have happened. You've seen it.
Yeah. hmm I did a show recently where we couldn't start because, one of the musicians was late, and everybody, well, most of the band thought it was going to be okay, but turned out a lot of the people who paid for their tickets complained that it started late.
Right.
So you don't want to do that.
Absolutely, because they'll always remember that part. What advice would
Right.
you give to international artists if an artist is coming over here or has come over here and they haven't broken or done as well as you? Because networking is another thing. You've networked, you've met a lot of people along the way, you know what it is professional wise or so, and they just haven't.
Yes. So fortunately, with today's technology and all the information available, it's very easy to find out who's doing well. And for example, if you're in the smooth jazz world, you go on the Billboard charts and see who are the people who are always charting, who are those top 30 or top 100 people, and then maybe start from the people who are lower on the chart, who are working their way up just like you. Start networking with them. Connect with them on Facebook. Try to catch one of their shows. Just build a relationship, and that goes a long way. I did that when I started, and slowly people helped me along the way, gave me tips, ideas. Oh, you should talk to this person. This person can help
Right.
you there. All of that. It's important. So that's what I would do. I would just recommend go on the charts, see who's trying to make it, who has made it, and then just try to go where they are, do what they're doing. That's what I did. Um, when I was writing music for Still Waters Run Deep, I would listen to Sirius XM and just to kind of try to figure out, okay, these are the songs they're playing the most. This is the kind of music they're playing. Okay, let me try to write something that's kind of in that same style because I know that's what they like.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you said that. You said so many great things in that about networking. You also said go to other people's shows. I love that. Go see
Yeah.
another person, another performer. Many don't. They'll say, well,
Right.
I'm already a performer. No, go see someone else, what they're doing, how they're making it.
Right.
Go network with them. I love what you said on Facebook. Connect with someone else. Because
Yeah.
we can learn, as long as we're above ground, we'll be able to learn something new.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's important because you don't know everything.
Right,
And you might, when you go see other people's shows, you're always going to get some ideas, whether
right,
that artist does a good job performing or not. Something that person does, or something that he does before or during or after the show, is going to give you ideas.
right.
Or you're going to meet somebody that's part of the band that might be beneficial to you later. So you just never know. It's good to go support. And when you do that, when you start doing your shows, those same people are going to come support you as well.
Right. And then once they are doing that, they bring their fans. They even market for you and say, hey, I'll be at this show. A lot of times I've noticed that. And man, that's so pivotal what you just said about how just the
Exactly.
connection and networking.
When another artist shares your gigs, then that's a huge deal.
Yeah, definitely. Especially. I've seen a lot of times that we were just talking about Seabreeze and just talking about the fact that now that COVID, you just recently did Seabreeze and people are coming out. What did you feel? How was it now that, COVID after, this is kind of COVID is never post, right? It's still here.
Right.
But people are now coming out. And that was one of the big jazz festivals in Seabreeze recently.
People are just ready. People travel from all over the US to come to this festival. All the hotels in Panama City were booked full. So people people were ready to be outside, to be among other people and listen to good music. So, and I'm seeing that more and more at my other shows as well. They're selling out,
Hmm.
and it's amazing. And the whole, you know, what do you call it, where they're letting fewer people in the club, that's starting to go away as well. They're starting to
Hmm.
let more and more people in into the venues for a show, and people are coming out. They're not complaining. They're not complaining that maybe they're too close to somebody else. No, if you don't like it, you don't have to stay there. But
Hmm.
they're not leaving. They're sitting there enjoying the shows, and they go home. It's people are just ready for it.
They are. They're ready for live. I know they've had a lot of virtual, but they really are ready for live. They want, and I
Hmm.
know you all, you as artists want the live because they feed. You feed off of the energy of the people.
Exactly. I did a few live streams during COVID, and you do your best, but it's just not the same.
Right.
To it's just never the same when you have somebody there in front of you
Right.
that you're interacting with, that's smiling at you,
Mm-hmm.
or that's dancing or bopping their head or whatever. That just gives you that really good feel and energy that you want back from the crowd, but
Right.
you just don't get that with it.
Absolutely. I love that. When you say that you're doing that, what do you think as you're looking now, what's next for music as far as business as well as jazz? Just what do you see that's next?
Well, I think COVID definitely changed a lot of things within the music business.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that, I think, is going to be the way artists work out their deals
Right.
with labels and with promoters. And so I think we're going to see a shift in that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how it's going to go exactly, but I think it's definitely going to be different because whatever we had before didn't work out during COVID.
Right.
If COVID happens again, musicians are not going to want to be hungry again.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to really rethink the way they work out their deals. So they're going to get creative. And then the creative part of it is find a way that works for both the artist and the label, because both of them has to make money. The labels are not, they're not the enemy. They do help you, but they got to pay their bills too.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with promoters. So we just got to find ways that work for all of us, where we can all eat.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that.
Mhm.
And just looking at the fact of being a pianist, why that instrument, someone is asking.
Why the piano? Well, I've honestly, as far as I can remember, always loved the piano ever since I was 4 years old.
Mm.
And I do remember things from when I was four. So I remember one of my cousins had a keyboard, and I never had one, but I always wanted one. And every time I went to her house, I would play on it. She never played on it. She didn't care for the thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I was just fascinated by it. And so I just wanted to play the piano. And I would go to church every Sunday, and I would sit all the way in front on the side of the piano so I can watch the pianist play piano.
Mm.
And anywhere I go where there was a piano, I wanted to be right in front so I can see what they're doing, because
Mm-hmm.
I was really fascinated by it. So as I got older, I started taking piano lessons when I was 12. So I started kind of late. But part of that is because we just never could afford a keyboard or a piano.
Right.
So my whole life on the island, I never had one. The way I practiced was I would either go to people's houses who had them and practicing their piano until they had enough of me and told me to go home. Or but and then when I turned 15, I got a new piano teacher, and he was really really impressed with what I did and really wanted to help me. So he gave me a key to his studio where I could go there anytime I wanted to and
Mm.
practice. So every day when I got out of school, I would either walk or take the bus to the studio and sit there and practice till in the evening. Then my mom would come pick me up. And I
Mm.
did that for 3 years before I came to the US and studied music.
Wow.
So I didn't have my first piano until I finished college.
Really? Your own piano?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Up until then, it was always other people's pianos or keyboards that I was practicing on.
Sounds good. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back on the Cam Hill Show.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages. The Cam Hill Show. If you'd like to advertise your business or become a sponsor, contact thecamhillshow@gmail.com.
Move up at Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 Cadillac XT4 Luxury Collection for only $319 a month. The new 2021 Cadillac XT5 Luxury Collection for only $399 a month, both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase either and enjoy 1.9% APR for 60 months plus bonus cash. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
Shop smarter when you shop Ron Carter. RonCarterCadillac.com.
My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Gino Rosaria, how you doing, buddy? Hey, people are asking about your master class and how they want to know some of the things that you would talk about in the master class, and also how to get in touch with you. We'll talk about that a little later, but just the master class itself, what does that look like?
So when I do my master classes, typically they happen at colleges, universities, and high schools, where I talk about what to do after you finish all your years studying music, what happens after that. And that's where the music business comes in. That's the part that most schools, universities, they don't teach you that part. They just make you a really good performer and then send you out. But then, a lot of those guys either end up doing gigs that they don't want to do, or they end up getting a job in a different field than they studied because they can't get work. So I like to talk about how to make a living out of music. Talk about the business side of things, the things that most musicians don't want to do because in their mind that's an agent's job. Well, agents are not going to work for you if nobody's going to hire you.
Right.
So, right. So you got to make yourself marketable, and there's a lot that goes into getting that show and getting somebody to believe in you enough to put their money on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So I talk about all of that. I talk about, really just the business side of music.
That's good.
And yeah. So a lot of times if I'm traveling to do shows, then some instructors that I have connections with, if they know that I'm in town, they'll bring me in for a master class.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes if I'm in town for more, if I have a few days free in that specific town that I'm in, then I just hit up a few universities or colleges or high schools, and I just let them know, hey, I'm in town. This is what I do. If you guys want to have me, I'd be glad to come and talk to your students. So.
I'm glad you said that. I'd heard that on something else that you do. I wanted people to understand that while you're there doing a show, you are still doing other things to give back to the community, to give back to people, so they will have that part. Like you said, the business part is pivotal, and many do not teach it. They don't share with others. They don't tell them the good and the bad. Mm-hmm. It's always the good, but never the bad. And then somebody get the bad, then they don't know what to do.
Exactly. exactly. And it's as a musician, it's very easy to become depressed
Yes.
and get down on yourself because we're artists. Artists are we've some of the hardest feeling people. When we feel hard.
Yes.
So if something hurts us, it hurts us hard. So you don't want to get to that point.
And creativity. And I like what you said about your other album. You're saying I don't mention it, but you know it from a creative side, a creativity side.
Yes,
You know what you maybe could have done better.
right, right. So musically, it's a great album,
Right.
but as far as the production and the marketing and the mixing and mastering, on those areas, I slacked off a lot because I was trying to save money. And those were just as important as playing the instrument. And it ended up hurting the album. I'm not gonna lie.
Right. And that's what I love about you in detailing those things and talking to others, that sometimes we try to do it all, right? Write the song,
Right.
produce the song, do this and that, all on the song to cut back.
Yep, we sure do. And sometimes it's just hard to imagine putting that much money into an album because at the end of the day, it's kind of a gamble. You don't know how it's gonna do.
Right.
All you can do is throw your best at it, do the very best you can. You can easily put 20 grand into an album. But at the end of the day, if radio stations don't pick it up, if TVs don't pick it up, you're not gonna get money back. And so, it's kind of a gamble, but at the same time, you really got to believe in yourself. And also, again, that's where the business side of things come in. If you have a good product and you can work it, you can do business, and you can make your money back with it.
You really can. And you've got to start letting others listen to it, Listen to it and say, what do you think about this as a consumer, not just as my friend, but as somebody as a consumer, what would you think? And be okay with the criticism.
Yep, I did a lot of that. Like I said, when I was reaching out to some of those artists who were doing it, who were they were known, they were playing on the radio and all of that. And I even do it up to this day. In fact, I sent a song to a friend of mine the other day who's on the charts, and I asked him, "Do you think this song would be a radio single?" And he was like, "It's a good song,
Right,
but it's not a radio song."
right.
So, and I'm glad he told me that because I went back and listened to it again. I was like, you know what? He's right. So now I'm not going to spend thousands of dollars on it to promote it on the radio, and then not get anything for it in return. So it's
Right.
good to get criticism from people who know what they're doing.
Absolutely. What would you like to leave with the viewers? And how can people get your music?
You can get my music really anywhere online. If you just Google my name, that's the benefit of having a very unique name.
Right.
You just Google Gino Rosaria. All my information will come up immediately. My music is on all streaming services. If you want a hard copy of my CD that I personally sign, you can buy that through my website. And of course, you can also see me at my shows, and I always have my CDs there with me as well. And then I would like to meet you in person and connect and um, get to know you that way. And as far as what to leave you with, I will tell anybody the same thing. Don't be afraid to be a giving person. A lot of people poured into my life to get me to where I am today. I'm not going to pretend like I did it on my own. I had a lot of help along the way. And for that reason, I also try to help others. I'm not just talking about financially, but also with knowledge, with advice, anything that can help somebody else. Don't feel like you need to protect what you know because somebody else might become better than you. I don't believe in that. I think there's enough work for all of us here on the planet. So be giving and help somebody else. And of course, work hard and believe in what you do.
I appreciate you, my friend, for everything you're doing. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the opportunity to share your music. Thank you for sharing your gift with all of us along the way. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for everything. And I look forward to meeting you in person
So,
very,
same
very
here.
soon. Talk to you soon.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank Veronica for hooking us up. Shout out to her.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate you. Thank you, family, for coming on to the Cam Hill Show and seeing this great artist, 12:30 to 1:30 Central Standard Time. We're here daily. Bye.